More fun with paint and sandpaper. Welcome to Urban Monk TV. So just a quick matter of business here before I dive in. One of the things that I've been kind of playing with, you've probably noticed, is music in the background on my videos. I've had comments in the past that, they're a little boring with no music whatsoever. I don't know. Personally, I honestly don't like the music. I tend to watch videos from other guys. Andy's Motorcycle Obsessions is one of my faves, and when he's working on bikes he doesn't use music. When he's riding his bikes he does use some background music, but on and off. So anyways, he's just one example. It doesn't mean that that's gospel on how a guy should go about it. This is my channel. I thought I'd just play with it. So the last 3 episodes I've had background music. It's music that I have a right to use. It's actually something that my band recorded over 20 years ago, 21 years ago. Some live recording from a show we did back in Minneapolis. Anyways, and then I started getting comments about, hey, no music, kill that, can't hear what you're saying. And I've got a lav microphone that I've been playing with, but I frankly don't like the quality of the sound. It's worse than just using the cardioid mic in the camera. And so I think I'm going to do a happy medium here. I think what I'm going to do for a while is no music when I'm talking and a little bit of music when I'm just working on parts. And let's try that on for size. Here I've just rigged up a quick and dirty parts hanging contraption so I can spray some of these pieces and use what you got. You could use 2 sawhorses with a 2x4 in between and drill screws in it or something and hang wires off those screws. I don't know. Many ways you could attack this, but some way to hang the parts and get 360 degrees around them on 3 planes. So another thing I've wanted to do is use these original Suzuki logos because they're a cool little cast metal part. But I want the word Suzuki to stand out more now that I've got a really light background to the tank. I don't want all this black in between the letters. So I am going to paint all the black the same color as the tank. First I have to mask off the letters, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do about the letters themselves. Little ding here, bunch of scratches on the on this S here. I don't know if you can see that. I may paint the word Suzuki after the fact. Not sure. But this shows through the paint really well, or through the tape really well, and I can just X-Acto knife around those letters. And then I'm just snugging this up around the letters. so that there's a nice tight fit on the edges. And we'll get out the X-Acto knife. So our X-Acto knife is a little friend we haven't seen since I was working on the engine, painting the heads and cylinders and all that. But I think you get the drift of how this exercise goes. Slowly. One thing I'm thankful for is Suzuki chose to use a font that is mostly block letters. But it's this kind of thing that, you know, right now I'm having a dialogue with you guys, so I'm not really in the present. But I'll turn the camera off and keep working on this. And these are some of my favorite things to do in the garage because they're so spiritually centering. So doing this kind of work with the X-Acto knife, where I'm sitting here for 10-15 minutes, maybe even, you know, half hour to an hour, the sanding work, the X-Acto knife work, all of that delicate, time-consuming stuff is some of my favorite things to be doing in the garage, and for this reason, because it's spiritually centering. And you know, when you're doing something like this, I think I mentioned it in a previous video going way back, you know, a Buddhist monk would say, when you're stirring the soup, stir the soup. And when you're sanding the gas tank, sand the gas tank. When you're X-Acto knifing, X-Acto knife. The point of that is be in the present. When you're doing something like this, you shouldn't be thinking about the past. It's easy to do it. This is a great opportunity to meditate, essentially, and calm the spirit. Get rid of anxiety, get rid of depression, you know, stress. This is why we go in the garage, right? Not to be stressed out, but to get rid of it. So, you know, you got to kind of have a practice out here. And I don't think about the past. I don't think about the future. This is what I'm trying. Of course, I'm not perfect. We all do this. I have a mind. It has these thoughts that jump in there, and I just got to recognize those and push them to the side. But the present, that's my life. My life is always in the present. It's not in the past. That already passed. And it's not in the future. That has yet to come. I'm not living in the future. I'm living right now. And if I'm thinking about the past or the future all the time, well, then I'm not living at all. So, stir the soup. So on these, I just want the word Suzuki to stand out, and it had this black background. I went ahead and primered that, and now I'm going to leave the tape over the letters and put my base color on the background so that really matches in with the color of the tank and your Suzuki, you know, the font, the letters are really going to pop out. And I may paint the letters in something, but I don't know. I'm still debating that. They're kind of a shiny chrome now, but they're pitted in some spots. They're very good, but not perfect. Then again, See, you know, it's sometimes you got to know when to leave imperfection there. This may be one of those cases. You know, a little patina can really bring some character to any antiquity, any piece of art. Yeah, we'll see. So these are some bits that I am going to paint the frame color, except for this piece on the right. Just getting started with primer on those. I'm not going to worry about sanding on these, but this guy is, you know, going to be right on top of the gas tank there, and so like the gas tank, I want a smooth finish, and so I need to sand this primer. Back to my 600 grit. This has some curvature to these edges right here. This is one area where I will sand with, you know, my finger, because I can get my finger to conform into that space pretty well. But on this broader surface, I'm going to get my block on this. So there's times, you know, the rule is use a foam block, and then there's times where you have to break the rule to get the job done. So you can see by hand I've done up this curvature around here and down, and then in this indented area again I'm using the 600 grit and just doing it dry for the primer, and I feel around there I'm very smooth. Now for these more flat surfaces and along this edge and there, I'm going to get the foam block out. Nothing fancy. Little circles. And then try not to ride on that edge too much, or you can, because of the small surface area there, I could cut through that primer pretty fast and get right back down to the metal. I don't want to do that. I'm just trying to smooth out the primer. So you got to be a little careful on smaller parts like this, especially with such a big block. You know, you might almost want to cut one of these up and make a little tiny block. That wouldn't be a bad idea. And back to our microfiber towel with 1 drop of dish soap, or just, you know, some kind of mild soap. Maybe a hand soap would be fine too. And water. Get all that dust off. Pretty smooth. There's one area where I got down to the paint, but it is ever so small and it's good paint, factory paint. I'm not going to sweat that too much. Let me get this dry, because then you can really see what you're dealing with. Well, I would never get this on camera, but once I get it dried, I can really see where I'm still rough or not. At the primer level, we don't have to be too exact here, because the color coat is going to fill in some. I just want to cut it down, you know, flatter, so it's more about getting the peaks out and less about getting the valleys out. if that makes sense, but I may just hit this right here and right here a little more, just because this is such an in-your-face position, and along here too. So once you wash it, get the dust off, and dry it, that's when your eyes can pick up on it. My fingers barely able to feel that, but my eyes can see it. Perfectionism? Definitely not, but you want to, that's one of those life lessons that we all have to learn in so many aspects of our life, and I think that's why art and projects like this are so helpful to us human beings. Is, you know, if you are a perfectionist, that is kind of a fear-based thing that can be paralyzing. At the same time, we really are drawn toward excellence, and when we witness excellence in something, it fills us with a feeling of wonder. So you want to get enough excellence to give people that feeling, then you've made good art. But at the same time, if you're too much of a perfectionist, well, you can just take it too far and get very little done. Let me see what I can get to happen with the camera here and zoom, and maybe you can see this. I still don't like that spot. Here, I'm going to touch that up and then I'll try to zoom in. So we'll see how much of that you can see. It's pretty smooth, but you know, up here, down here a little bit, that's, your eyes can see it better than, you know, here very smooth, here just a little rough. I don't know if you can see that. And so I'm waiting for paint to dry out there. I'm going to start venturing into some of the other parts that I can start painting, like ignition switch. I'll get this cleaned up and taped off in areas, and we can prime that for our color. You may remember these two little adapters I made for mounting the speedometer and tach and isolating them with a little rubber. We're going to go ahead and paint those. We'll just primer them for now. And then I got to finish up with this top of the triple tree. We've got rough edges here. These guys are still at two different heights, so I've got some metal work to do there with the grinder. And I got to make some noise there. Family still sleeping as usual. And not that there's anything wrong with sleeping in on the weekend. Clean that up. Also, the bottom. We got some rust here, so I bought some more blasting media for my sandblaster, because these are just spots I'm going to have a hard time getting into. And that seems to make pretty quick work of that. We'll get this taped off and primer that. So, you know, in between the paint, there's things we can be doing. On bare metal parts like this, before priming, I will just, you know, sand it a little bit, and then we'll just clean them up with carb cleaner. This dries really quick, and it's pretty good solvent for stuff like this. Just cleaning up this ignition switch. I've got electrical exposed back here. There's some sort of plastic or hard rubber cover that should be here. I don't have it. I don't know that I'll be able to get just that part. I'm guessing I'd have to buy the whole ignition switch, and I've got 2 keys for this thing, and so I'll have to come up with something there. But meanwhile, as I'm cleaning with just a small amount of kerosene, I'm just going to be careful not to get anything in there and let everything drip down. I'll keep that up. Just be careful. So as far as this ignition switch is concerned, I used the kerosene to clean it up with a toothbrush. That didn't take long. Kept all of this electrical clean, never got a drop of anything on that, and then dried it and cleaned it with carb cleaner. If any of that kerosene leaks into the tumbler mechanism, it'll provide just the slightest bit of an oiling quality anyway, so I'm not too concerned about that. I highly doubt much got in there anyway, so time to just tape off the areas I don't want paint to get on. And so out here we've finished our logos, and I've got 3 coats of color on the cover for the gas tank. Looking pretty good. I got a little bit of a glob that came off the nozzle on the first coat, and not a big deal because I'm going to be sanding anyways, and you can sand out that stuff. So I'm going to call that a wrap for this week. I think we got some good content moving forward with some of these bits and pieces. They're all important, and I've got some other things I got to do today. In particular, this morning I get to pick up my V-Strom from the shop. That's right, the shop. Crankshaft position sensor after 40,000 miles was starting to go bad. And I have been so busy at work, and I've been sick. I had that flu a while back. Now I have a cold. Anyways, there ain't no shame in taking it to a shop sometimes and just paying somebody to do the work. I had the luxury of being able to do that. I got a good shop where I trust them. But I've been without the thing for 2 weeks because the part has been something difficult to get. But it's done. So I gotta go get that bike and get back on the road for my daily commute to work on my everyday bike. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Every one of these things is a little bit of progress, and have patience with your project. I've been at this thing now over a year, and I've got months to go, but I'm taking you guys along for the ride, and all along the way I'm taking care of myself on the weekends, calming my spirit, decompressing from the stresses of work and family life, and that's why I come out here in the garage, and that's why I ride. I'll talk a little bit more about why riding a motorcycle is a spiritual experience, but we'll do that on another video. So if you like what I'm doing here, please give me the thumbs up and subscribe for updates. Thank you so much for watching.